It's absolutely my pleasure to bring up this next person who's going to introduce our Voice for Equality winners. You know, this is somebody who in Tallahassee has been the quarterback of every important thing that we've worked on. If you heard about the attempt to put non-traditional family, block non-traditional family values programming from being in a tax credit bill, I was sitting in Senator Gelber's office when he was crafting the language that would replace that, and working with Republicans to yank that language out of 2 Senate bills. Everything that we work on, he's our go-to guy, not just because he's brave, not just because he stands up on the issues, but because he's smart about it. And it is absolutely my pleasure to introduce our awardees tonight, Senator Dan Gelber.
Thank you all so much, and I do want to say something about the legislative session because, frankly, there aren't a lot of bright spots in Tallahassee on issues having to do with the LGBT community. There really aren't. But this last week, Equality Florida did something I thought was pretty smart. There was a bill on the floor of the Senate that would prevent people from asking whether you had a gun when you were doing an adoption diligence. So the Equality Florida folks had an idea. Mallory and Stratton and Nadine, they said, why don't you use that as an opportunity to talk about other things having to do with adoption on the floor of the Senate? And normally if we tried to do something like that, they wouldn't even allow the debate. Well, we went to some of the folks in management, to the Republicans, and there are moderate Republicans, by the way, and I don't want to ever pretend that this is just a Democrat versus Republican issue, even though I'm running as a Democrat for Attorney General. But I know, but the truth is it's not. And so we said, why don't we have a little debate, a little discussion about gay adoption on the floor, since we're talking about adoption. And we worked it out a little bit, and then for the first time in 33 years, on the floor of the Senate, a handful of senators stood up and said, it makes no sense to stop gay Americans from being parents. It makes no sense. And it was amazing. I mean, maybe the bar is low, but it was something, and you don't go a mile until you take a few steps. When I stood up and said the only thing that should matter is the love in your heart, not your orientation, guess what happened? The world did not stop turning on its axis. It didn't. People listened. People listened, and the right wing of the Republican Party didn't jump up and start screaming. We actually had a mature debate. And by the way, there are plenty of things we don't have mature debates about, so if we hadn't had one, don't feel bad. But the truth of the matter, it was a moment that, although it's not a great step, it was an important step. Because for the first time in 33 years, and I want to thank Equality Florida, it was their idea, we actually had the kind of discussion that adult policymakers should have in a state that so sorely needs to change this very, very wrong-headed ban. So I was proud to be part of it, and thank you, Equality Florida.